What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Help More, Sell More podcast. I'm Jeff Burlingame here with my co-host Joe Marcoux. Joe, how we doing today?
Any better there'd be two of me, my man. How about you?
I mean, I am riding high off of a big fishing trip, trip of a lifetime for me. So I'm feeling those bright spots right now. I had a great time. Went up to fish the St. Lawrence River, caught a whole bunch of gigantic, comically large smallmouth, like smallmouth
Congratulations.
bass who looked like cartoons, like Johnny
Whoa.
Bravo if he were a fish. So I'm feeling great, man, and I'm excited for today too because I feel like this is an extremely underrated topic. This is one of those things that when I encounter this, it's so obvious to me. It's one of those things that sticks out like a sore thumb. I can look at a salesperson in a sales appointment and say, here's the problem. And they don't notice it. It flies under the radar. We're talking, of course, about body language, which, I mean, Joe, I think we can both agree is a pretty important thing. Yeah.
Body language represents 55% of the way that we communicate. Back in 1972, Morabian did a study in California in a California university on body language laws, communication laws. 7% words, 38% tone of voice. You think words and tone represent a total of 45%. So the majority, all it takes is 1%. When you think of an election, if you've got that
Mhm.
1% more, then guess what? That's where the majority is. And the majority of the way that we communicate is body language. And so it's the nonverbals that will make a difference. And the subconscious mind picks up on all of this stuff. People don't pay attention to it. It's massive. And it's funny because you sent me some of the photos of your fishing trip, and your body language is happiness,
Joy.
joy, ecstatic, elation. And those are the types of energies that you can't fake.
Yep.
Right? The look in your eyes, your eyebrows, the smile on your face, and your hands are shaking and the adrenaline's pumping. And when it's that real and you can harness that energy
Mhm.
and you're able to understand the tactics to be able to authentically share that with someone else, that's when real persuasion takes place. So I'm really excited about today's episode.
100%. And I want to throw something out here at the onset of this episode because it's very important to understand. If we're talking about body language, guess what, you guys? Your prospects need to see you because body language, other than one thing we'll talk about in a second here, does not work through the phone. It definitely doesn't work through text. It doesn't work through email. So you're kind of placing yourself at a disadvantage. So one of the things we'll say first, like we totally understand the state of the world in 2021 is a little different, but there you do have the benefit of video calls. You can do a Zoom call, you can do a Skype, whatever your platform of choice is. What we're encouraging you to do is visually see and have them see you, right? Get in front of your prospects rather than trying to have a conversation over an email, right?
It's
Uh,
crazy. Think of how this pandemic has changed the way
yeah,
that people have come to a place of communication. Jeff,
exactly.
you and I, every time that we connect, it's on a Zoom call.
Yep.
People come into the dojo, it's on a Zoom call. I do sales training now more by Zoom than any other method. And yeah, I'm going to be doing live events again. There's no question that this has revolutionized the way that people can communicate. And by all means, if you have a choice, get on a video conference or get video call. There's no question it will improve your probability of closing.
Absolutely. Hands down, you are placing yourself at an advantage if you do this. Now, the one thing I will say is like when you're over the phone, and this is sort of voice inflection, but it's also something you do with your body, make sure you smile through the phone. That is like
Mm.
one little hack that you can do. Like, trust me, it sounds weird. Joe and I talk about it to our people all the time. It sounds weird, extremely effective. So just
Yeah.
put a smile on your face, big fat grin, and like
It,
dial that number.
it feels bizarre. It maybe,
Yep.
and this is our mind, it's all mindset. So it might feel bizarre. And yet, when the other piece of this, by the way, from a mindset perspective, change the way that you do things because what got you here is not going to get you there, guys. So, and I say, guys, ladies and gentlemen, so here's the deal. If you take a look at Jeff right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, for example, or if you're looking at this, I mean, standing up.
Mhm.
Reason why we stand up when we're doing these podcasts. There's a reason why we stand up when we're on sales calls or we're in meetings, especially on Zoom. Because what does it do? What does it do? It translates to our energy. If you walk away with anything from this podcast today, anytime if you're a retailer, for example, and the phone is ringing and you're sitting down, get your butt out of the chair, take a deep breath, and then answer the call. I tell you what, your energy is going to be completely different than if you just had your butt in the chair.
I mean, I'll be honest, my favorite way to take sales calls, if I have to take it on the phone, and that is a worst case scenario, trust me there. We're talking about body language today, right? Is my favorite way to do it is throw my AirPods in and go walk. Just
Yeah,
go walk around. As long as I
you
have good
bet.
cell signal, I'd rather be moving and having this conversation because I know I can think better. I can have my energy up, and you always have the sign behind you: highest energy wins, right? So that goes a long way. But hey, we're not here to talk about phone calls. That's another topic altogether.
You
We're here
bet.
to talk about body language. So let's dive right into this. And let's start out with our favorite way to launch an episode, story time. And you guys better believe we each have hundreds of stories to share. So, by episode 2097, we might run out of stories, but I highly doubt it. So, Joe, I'm going to let you start today. Your story time question of the day is: what is a time in your past that you can think of where either you or a salesperson you worked with or developed got in trouble due to body language, or maybe potentially lost a sale, or encountered some negative feedback because of body language?
That's a great. This is so much fun, and there's so many stories that come to mind on this one for me. I'm reminded by one of my sales team members, who we'll call him Paul. And Paul, super nice guy, was interested in the concept of mirroring people, and mirroring can work. There's a
Hmm.
level of consciousness and then a level of subconsciousness when you start mirroring people's body language. And he was really good at it, by the way. It got to a point where he was just doing it without thinking about it, and people were following his lead, which is excellent. And I know we'll touch upon that a little bit later. However, there was a time where he was dealing with this was in a retail environment. This was back when I was an owner of an exercise equipment retail store. And there was a couple that came in, and there was a woman. She must have been in her mid 50s. This couple was without question very affluent, well dressed. They were interested in purchasing exercise equipment so that they could lose weight. That was their intention. All I don't know where his head was at that day. Again, it happens to people once in a while. He started off, and I don't know if he was, again, this is what's interesting. He started off with his arms crossed in front of his body. So suddenly there's this defensive mode, or the messaging that he's sending off is, right, he could be cold. Just because you're cold, the answer to that is like, do what I'm doing right now. Wear a sweater. Because if my arms are crossed in front of you, I'm either coming across that I'm afraid, or I'm better than you and I'm not showing you any respect. And she called him on it. She called him on it, which was wild. And
Yeah.
she said, why are you standing like that? This was like within a minute of the conversation. She said, why are you standing like that? And I remember Paul looking at me, and he did something really brilliant, by the way. He said, you know what? I'm going to get you in touch with the resident expert on this. And he tagged off because he knew no matter what he would do at this point, it was game over. So again, we always did a debrief after every retail interaction. If we had an opportunity, we would debrief it, and that's a whole other episode as well, like debriefing
Yeah.
an interaction, because it's so important to be able to consistently grow, right? It's a metric, it's an opportunity to measure your metrics and measure your performance. Nobody's got it perfect, right? We just want to continually strive for excellence, as Tom Peters would say. And so Paul just went from this to dropping his arms, knowing it was too late, and he clapped his hands, and it was basically like end
Yep.
scene. It was
Yep.
really great. So she calls him on it. Why are you standing like that? Like, what's your problem? That was literally the deal, and I was in earshot.
Yeah.
I was standing behind this counter about 20 feet away doing some stuff and, keeping an eye on things. And he went, I'm going to get you the resident expert. Hey, Joe, can you come here for a sec? And I walked over, and I mean, my arms were wide open, and that's where we transitioned. And so there was a tag off moment. She called him on it, and what, to his credit, Paul was cognizant enough of saying, this relationship is not going to work, even if he actually knew more about the
Right.
product that they were interested at that particular point in time. He was better suited to talk about specs. I was better suited to come in and take over because the relationship was lost based purely on his body language. Isn't that wild?
That is, but I mean, it makes total sense. And so my story is going to be similar, and what I'm going to give you guys is actually we'll just say an amalgamation of my experience working with personal trainers and sales. So I want you guys to think about just shredded people, big buff dudes, women with six packs, like people who are very fit, right? And then we put them in a situation where they're supposed to sell to people that are less fit, individuals joining a gym with the intent of losing weight, of decreasing body fat, of gaining muscle mass, of whatever, whatever goals that they had, right? And
Is anybody self-conscious walking in?
yes, people who are not
Yeah.
excited to be here in the first place and are not exactly looking forward to the 6 to 12 to 18-month journey ahead of them, in which they know they're going to have to do a lot of work and there's going to be a lot of sweating, there's going to be tough days and all this. So imagine just dragging your feet into a gym. Like, this is you're the prospect. You're dragging your feet in the gym. You're like, man, shoot, I got to do this thing. It's going to be tough, but I know I'm going to do it. And then a personal trainer, we'll just call him, I don't know, Tony, right? He comes bounding up, high energy, like turned up to an 11 Spinal Tap edition. And
Love
he
it.
is just jacked. Here's the body language issue. It's not just the energy. We're going to talk about energy matching and mirroring and stuff in a minute, but it is the broad shouldered approach. So my biggest issue working with trainers is I had to get them to slouch a little bit to start, to meet somebody where they are, right? People
Got it.
coming in, dragging their feet, they're walking like this. They're a little bit slouchy. They're like, oh, hey, how's it going? They sit in their chairs, they kind of crumble up, right? And then a trainer pops up and goes, hey, what's up? Like, how can I help you? And like just broad
Oh
chest, broad
no.
shoulders above them, right? And that was
Yeah.
the other issue. There's kind of like twofold. So I really hated these gyms that I worked at on the East Coast. We would have to essentially sell. The only spot I had to sell, I had to buy my own table. I'll tell you guys in a second. I had to buy my own table to sell the way I wanted to sell at these gyms because they had this long granite countertop. Imagine just going to a bar. And there's bar stools on one side, on the other side there's not. So the trainers would be
Oh my
standing.
God. So it's so confrontational.
Yes, the trainers would be standing, the prospect would be sitting. Because naturally,
Oh,
you approach a bar with chairs all the way down. What are you going to do? You're going to sit. And then
yeah.
on the backside, trainers had like their computers. That was the other problem. There's a computer between me and them. So I'm like peeking around this monitor. I got a keyboard. You don't know what I'm looking at or doing. Computer only
Oh,
faces me. And I'm standing with big, broad shoulders going like, how can I help you?
us versus them is so terrible.
Exactly. So I want you guys to think about that. Picture this scenario. Put yourself there. It is very much a confrontation in us versus them. And this is a help more, sell more podcast. That's not what this is about, right? We are the
Yeah.
complete opposite of that. And when it comes to body language, if you want to place yourself at an advantage, it's not about being above the prospect. It's about being level with them. It's about meeting them where they are. So you would
Right.
have to sit, and better than across from them would be next to them, right? Us.
100%.
It's us together. It's not me versus you. It's us in this
It's
together.
we. It's inclusivity versus
Yeah.
exclusivity. And you know what you said? Yeah, I need to jump in, Jeff, because it's
Yeah.
so big. When you see and you hear me say, and we both say it often, highest energy wins. It doesn't mean that you have to come in at a level 11 in terms of highest energy. It means that if somebody comes in at a level 3, you come in at a level 4, because that's the
Exactly.
highest energy in that context. So it's a question of context. I'm using the Austin Powers context, the quotes here, okay? Let me use some context for you. Highest energy wins. You have a client that comes in or a prospect that comes in and they're a level 8, then yeah, you got to come in at an 8.1, if not a 9. Don't show up with someone who's level 2 and you're 11, you've lost. So
Yeah,
it's
you're gonna scare 'em.
understanding what, yeah,
Exactly. So that was the other issue working in the fitness industry. Everybody's on pre-workout. So if you guys aren't familiar with pre-workout, it's a heavily caffeinated supplement. So they're either drinking energy drinks like Bang energy drink, or they're, pouring powder in their shaker cup and just downing that like all day.
what kind of powder are you talking about, Jeff? Come on, man.
Not that kind of powder now,
Okay,
but
because back in the
you know,
90s, it was crazy.
close enough. Yeah, sales in the 90s. You guys watch out. Go watch Jordan Belfort. So
Exactly.
so yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. But they'd be hyped up on caffeine. So what we're saying is, guys and gals, like if you need energy, I mean, get some energy, but don't do a double shot espresso. Do like a single espresso so that you can
Yeah.
like control your energy level and your jitters. Because guess what? Part of body language, part of the bad body language we're going to get into here is fidgeting, is fumbling around and like your leg bouncing up and down. It's
Huge.
impatience. And guess what? The prospect can feel that. That is palpable, your
And they
impatience.
misinterpret it, Jeff.
Yep.
When you're, yeah, that you're nailing it. That's absolutely game changing. I really appreciate you've just blown my mind just now because I'm a caffeine lover. I love coffee. Last night, Sean and I had date night, and we were headed to bed, and we both. She said, she goes, you know, it's funny. I can't wait for coffee tomorrow morning. This is one of
I
the
feel the
last
same way.
messages she said to me, right? So we're coffee lovers.
Yep.
And in context, I think of what you just said, the caffeine jitters, and all of a sudden, if your fingers are twitching, or if
Yep.
your leg is shaking and you're actually shaking the ground, and yet because you're having those caffeine jitters, the 55% body language rule, somebody could misinterpret that and visualize and say, why are they so impatient?
I'm sorry, am I bothering you? Right? Like you're gonna get
Right.
are you trying to get rid of me? Like, am I going too slow? This is something that you're going to encounter. So let's use this as a great segue into what is bad body language, right? Fidgeting, extremely bad. So I want you guys to try this experiment right now. If you are at a desk listening to this, start tapping your foot, start bouncing your leg. Does your desk move? Does anything on your desk move? Does anything rattle around? I guarantee it does, right? Unless you're on a solid concrete slab and like your desk is, I don't know, made out of 11 gauge steel and weighs 1,000 pounds, like your desk is moving. It's
For sure.
moving. So that is extremely noticeable. If you're holding a pen and you're just doing this thing, or worse, you're like the kid I was always jealous of in middle school who could just like twiddle the pen through his fingers, like
He looks
just
bored.
do that,
He looks bored.
spin it, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
bored, you're impatient, and these are all negative signals going to your prospects saying, okay, I'm not that important to them. I'm just a number. I'm a part of the deal today, right? Hopefully they sell me. I'm not important. I'm just a number, right? That is a problem. That is not a way that we want a prospect to feel. We need to build a relationship.
How
No,
about
like,
another
and
big
trust.
one? No, like, and trust big time, Jeff. How about another one? Get rid of your damn phone. Because
Yeah.
guess what? People with their head down,
Sorry,
right?
what?
They're,
You said something?
exactly. So I could be across the desk from you, or even sitting next to you, or standing next to a product, and I've seen this. It boggles my mind where they have their device. You'll notice that I don't have one in hand at the moment. I can go and reach for it.
Yeah.
They have their device and they're in the middle of a conversation with someone, and then their head goes down and they're checking a text. What
Yeah.
are you doing?
Dude,
Like,
trainers
who's
were so bad about that to me.
it's
Trainers would be talking to a client and they'd just be like, yeah. And then they'd be like, Instagram. Like,
Oh my God. And so, what is the message that we're saying? What's the message?
you're not
Message
important.
is you don't matter. Like,
Yep.
are you kidding? These are people that are there with you, and they're interested in doing what? They're curious and probably going to spend money. And if they don't spend it with you, they're going to spend it with someone else.
You're
In this
toast.
world of post-COVID, this is the part that really drives me bananas, is the thinking of yesterday is not going to get you to the place where you want to get to tomorrow. So this turbulence that we've gone through, it is time right now to be cognizant and aware, because those people that practice these things that Jeff and I are talking about, those are the people that are going to dominate in their industries, no matter what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, this next one I think is good too, but you already brought it up at the beginning, but I want to add some exceptions maybe to it. Arms crossed, right? Now, I've heard this both ways, and I've posted about this in sales groups in the past. If you cross your arms, right, that's the standoffish, intimidation factor. I'm above you, I'm better than you, et cetera, right? It's a closed off. You're literally like closing yourself off from others. That's the whole idea. I mean, this is straight up just intimidation, right? Now, the exception is if you're mirroring, one, they cross their arms, you can cross your arms. They
Correct.
uncross their arms, you uncross your arms, right? You just have to follow suit. Or this little move, right? If you have your hands up on your arms, like that's somewhat okay. But for the most part, I'm with you, Joe. Just don't cross your arms. Just be open, right?
The
It's
intent,
literally openness.
right? The intent with crossing your arms, that's also, again, the misinterpretation was, here's someone who's cold or
Yep.
someone who's afraid. Because what do you do when you cross your arms? You're covering up all your vitals,
Yeah.
right? So when you're doing this, it's a protection move. Either way, it's not positive. So the outcome needs to be, hey, my arms wide open, right?
Yeah.
It's and using your hands to, and of course, I mean, I want to be clear. It's a question of how do you communicate. I'm not asking you to be a mime. I'm not asking you to learn sign if you don't know how to sign language. It's more of an issue of, if you're watching this YouTube, this also, these hand movements, they need to be natural, and they do create a level of energy, right? And it's inviting. And there's little gestures that we could also do. And let's just go into asking for the sale, which again, most salespeople don't ask often enough.
Yep.
And what we think about, we bring about. So when I ask for when I'm confident that I've gotten to a place where I've earned the right to ask for the sale. And sometimes, by the way, that could be 5 minutes in, or that could be half an hour, or depending on the context, a couple of hours, depending on what it is that we're making the offer for. I'm nodding yes when I ask. So we all know that the thing to do after you ask is shut up. I say that with all respect.
Go back to episode 2. That was our second episode.
When we get to that place where it's like, so Jeff, want to do this? What am I saying without saying it right now?
You do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'm saying yeah. I'm nodding. I'm going up and down, and what we do in an exercise, and I really want you to think about this, is not think about when you're nodding your head up and down. Look in the mirror if you guys want to practice this after the episode. Look at yourself. If you're watching, go to a mirror right now and look at yourself and think, we got this, not I got this, and not please. You can try these 3 different things. If you said to yourself, for example, we got this, and you're looking in the mirror and it's we, and you're looking, because I can see myself on camera right now, and I'm like, we got this. I'm smiling just a little bit, just a little smile. It's got to be a genuine smile. It can't be disingenuous. As opposed to I got this. I got this comes off cocky. And the difference between we got this and I got this, it's amazing how your facial expression can change. And then keep nodding and think please. You'll see that you almost look desperate at times when you're saying please. So I got this, not so good. We got this, we're in this together. And yet I'm still the authority. And it's amazing what our facial expression will do. Think of a baby. You've had little people in your life, Jeff.
Yep.
The baby may not understand the words that you're saying, and yet it's amazing what these facial gestures do. The innocent little person who's looking at you and knows when to be afraid and knows when it's safe.
Yeah. And
safe.
What you're bringing up here, right, is emoting, nodding. Those things are examples of good body language. So absolutely. I appreciate jumping ahead to those. Now, to kind of wrap up, there's a few other things I definitely want to hit on bad body language, or in other
Mm.
words, things to avoid. But if we think about, like emoting, right? So yeah, the idea of the baby being able to like kind of understand how you feel, or if you guys have like dogs, right? Dogs can generally like track your facial features. They know if you're mad, if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're scared, whatever, right? Now, I want you to picture emoting in a sales conversation. Are you the stoic individual? Are you a straight stone faced killer? Like you just are focused on, you're hyper focused to the point that you don't even smile. Now, picture yourself as the prospect. And maybe you've been the prospect. Because I think, for example, a great, you mentioned debriefing earlier. A great way to train yourself and to learn in sales is to put yourself in a sales position as the prospect, to put yourself in their shoes. So when you bought a car, when you bought a house, when you bought, anything from an electronics store, I mean, it doesn't matter what you bought, but you are the buyer, they are the seller. Now, think of an experience where you were dealing with a salesperson who seemed to not care, not emote whatsoever, just be like straight face. Yeah, we got a sale going on. It's 20% off right now if you buy that TV over there. Just monotone, just like you're like, what is going on in this guy's head? Is he displeased that he's here, that he has this job, that he's like talking to me right now? Like, how am I supposed to feel? Because what's always happening is there is a narrative to fill. There is a void and it is filled with a narrative. Now, whether or not that narrative is positive is up to you and your body language and the things that you say. So if you are lacking emotion, if your body language sucks, then you are filling this void with a negative narrative for that person. They are literally writing a story about you. They are making up in their own head who you are, how you feel about them, and it's all bad, right? And that's your fault. Like you did that. And now they're most likely not going to buy. If they do buy, not from you, they're going to go to the next sales guy who's happy and smiling and emoting. And look, guys, I get it. I get it. It's tough. You're not always on your A game. You're not always feeling 100%. You might be sick. You might have had some bad news right before you walked into the room. But if you're here, if you're present, you need to be here 100%. So whatever you got to do, we talked about maybe on a previous episode here, like the hype reel, right? You got to play back a hype reel, things I did really well, my highlights, right? You got to listen to music. You got to just slap yourself in the face. You got to down a pot of coffee. Like, I don't know, whatever it is for you, you better find that, because if you show up and you let your emotions, your negative emotions, your bad feelings come through, you're not going to win the day. You might as well take the day off. Like,
Tony Robbins calls
don't
it
be,
priming. Get
yeah,
yourself primed, and there's little things that you can do, and this is what's great about our physical bodies is using movement, using physical movement, which is why, again, stand up when you're on a sales call. Movement is going to help you create positive energy, and so standing up, and in this case, when you're discussing with someone and being attentive. We've talked about this briefly, and I know we're going to get deeper into this in other episodes. It's called active listening. Active listening, where we're nodding and or showing empathy. And it's something that Chris Voss talks about in his book, Never Split the Difference. Tactical empathy, these shifts, right? Think of from this perspective. We want to be the experts. We want to be the authority. Well, when we're in our authority space, we keep our head straight. We want to show empathy. We tilt our head by 15 degrees. That's it. It's these little cues. And
subtle.
again, it's one thing being, okay, I understand this now. Like I get it. Now I have to practice it so that it becomes muscle memory,
Yeah.
so that it becomes second nature. Now I do it. I don't even think about it. When I first heard things, for the example, like when somebody says, well, what kind of deal can you give me? Right? I can say, I can shake my head no and say, hey, I can appreciate you're looking for a good deal. And what exactly do you have in mind? And what am I saying the whole time?
Nope.
Saying no.
Not gonna do that.
However, what's my tone and the words? Am I rude? Absolutely not. I'm being respectful. I'm asking a question. And so these are techniques and they need to be practiced because I can tell you, Jeff, countless times when when we do this in the program where we show people how to do, and most people go, I can, they'll nod, yes, I can appreciate you're looking for a good deal. What exactly do you have in mind? They're saying, yeah, I'm about to
Happy to
discount.
help.
I'm about to give away the farm. I'm about to lose margin. That's exactly what they're saying. And so what we want to do is go, hey, we're going to show you how to do this. I can appreciate you're looking for a good deal. I'm just curious, what exactly did you have in mind? And so now we're helping you hold margin and you're still polite,
Yeah.
still kind, and you could still be generous. And then there's strategies that we get into later on. And it's powerful. The first times people try this, it's like doing the Spock sign from Star Trek. It's like, they can't do it. And that's okay. Eventually you'll figure it out. Then it's second nature. It's like, I got this. I don't even have to think about it. And then you can do these other exercises with your fingers and whatnot, right? Well, it's the same thing. Like when you practice right? The first time you try them, it's like, it's like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you got it. And practice.
Yeah.
That's the thing that debriefing and being cognizant of how our body language is will get you from good to great.
Yeah, and we're, action step from, the end of the episode when we get there today, guys, is going to be practice. It's going to be role play. So spoiler alert, that's coming up. But here's as far as bad body language, the last thing I want to hit is really based in intimidation, right? So we talked a little bit about a few intimidating factors, things that bother people, set them off, have them draw up this negative narrative of you, which doesn't help you make a sale. It hurts you a lot. Lightning round, intimidation things that intimidate your prospect. Real quick, I talked about the terrible setup of my gym, right? So what I did, I told you I bought my own table, Amazon.com, pub tables, $67. It's in my cart permanently. Also metal bar stools. You just get 2 metal bar stools. They don't have a back, so nobody leans, right? Like we're all upright,
Right.
we can maintain decent posture. It also means my prospect has decent posture, which brings the energy of the conversation up automatically. But I sit at a round pub table directly next to them. Now I'm right-handed, so I'll sit on their left side. And I do that so that when I'm taking notes, they see what I'm writing. Nobody
Nice.
wants to feel like they're in the psychiatrist's office and they're on the
Right.
couch and psychiatrist is over here like, yeah, this guy's a nerd, just like writing all these notes
You don't
about
know
you.
what he's thinking.
Yeah, you don't know what they're saying. Like, I mean, it's the same thing happens whenever you encounter somebody who's speaking another language you don't speak. What do you automatically do? You build a negative narrative. They're probably saying something mean about me. Like, they're not even talking about you. They're not.
Exactly.
But you feel that way. Everybody gets that feeling automatically. Same with note taking. So, if you're taking notes, show them the notes. Nothing needs to be secret. There's nothing you need to hide, or there shouldn't be. If there is, that's another problem entirely. But you sit directly next to them because, again, it's it's inclusive. That's what we've been talking about. Versus across from them, the principal's office. You're in trouble. It's me versus you. What scenario have you ever sat across a desk from somebody where you're like, this is going to be a good conversation? Boss calls you into the office, bad conversation. You go to the principal's office, bad conversation. It's never good, right? So sit directly next to them. The last thing I want to hit is squaring off, right? So when you meet a person, if you're chest to chest, the way Joe and I are on camera right now, this can be interpreted as an intimidation factor or squaring off, like we're going to throw down, right? Literally just 1920s fistics come up and we're like, all right, buddy, let's go. So that is something to be cognizant of. Now, it's not always going to have that impact. I find whenever I have a sales appointment with women that this can be something I want to avoid. I'm not going to have big boxy shoulders. I'm not going to go chest to chest. I don't want to have this interpreted as an intimidation factor. So I'll typically be off to the side. Very simple thing, right? You don't have to go straight up to them, right? And square off like that. And that's also why I sit next to people, right? And again, this isn't relegated to just men or just women. It's all over, right? Like anybody could have this feeling, this interpretation. So again, it's just something to be cognizant of. When you go up, you shake hands. By the way, you guys are shaking hands. Please don't break everybody's bones. You know how many
Oh my God.
salespeople
Yeah.
I've shaken hands with and been like, "Hi, can I have my hand back?" Like, just because I'm a dude, you're just gonna go and crush my hand.
Or
That
even worse, there's guys that go up to women and they give them the limp fish
oh,
and like the dead fish. It's like I know so many women who have said to me, "Oh my God, can you just shake my hand with the level of respect that you would a man?" And guys, listen, we're people, and it's just shake somebody's hand. And that could be a whole episode. It's incredible, especially for those who are in the B2B space. There's something else though that we talked briefly. We talked about priming, and
Yep.
one of the power priming moves is the superhero hands on the hip pose, right? What, like Wonder Woman or Superman. That's a great priming move. It's been proven, by the way. There's studies that have been proven that if you when you stand in that priming pose,
Yeah.
and again, be safe, right? You don't want to do it in front of a client. Do this alone, and I know it might feel weird. It raises testosterone by 20%. Like it's crazy. Prove it, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So you want natural T levels? Stand like Wonder Woman, stand like Superman for 2 minutes. If you stand in front of somebody with your hands on your hips, you come across again as this power move, and you have to be very careful when doing it. So again, this is what like Jeff had mentioned earlier. Be cognizant of how you're standing. So arms relaxed. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't stand with your hands on your hips. It's a question of context. The other thing, two things real quick. Cracking your knuckles. I know too many men that do this. It's a sign of being nervous, and yet what it does, and they're cracking their knuckles like, what are you? Stop it. And then the other one is just the fidgeting. Fidgeting, right? Because you're nervous, and it looks impatient.
Yeah.
So the fidgeting of like the twiddling of your thumbs, or the knocking of your fingers on the desk. This thing, it's like, hey man, you got to stop that. It's the cues that people pick up can be so misinterpreted, and this is the beauty of body language. 55% of the way that we communicate is body language. The question is it being misinterpreted, or are we using it to our advantage? And that is precisely what we want for you. If you have these tactics and you know of them, then practice them, because then you will be way better than any competitor out there. There's no doubt about it, because people don't buy what you sell, they buy you. Buy you first.
Yeah. So I think this is a great segue into some other good body language tactics, right? At the end of the day, you guys, the bad body language, the important things to remember here is that one, you really just need to be cognizant of what you're doing, right? If you are thinking about that, if you're practicing not doing some of those things, it's going to go a long way. That's going to help you out a lot. The other thing to keep in mind is that all of this stuff, well, the majority of it is interpreted subconsciously by your prospect. So it's not going to be obvious that they're just like, he's tapping his thumb on the table. He is impatient. He doesn't want to talk to me.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
We talk about know, like, and trust. You automatically in your head, when you're building that narrative, positive or negative, if it's negative, what your body tells you is like your gut says, don't trust this person. So when this person says, sign up with me, it's going to be great, you're like, I don't trust you. And that's when you guys get hit with the nonstop smokescreen nonsense objections that aren't real. It's like, oh, I forgot my wallet, right? Oh, is it in your car? No, it's at home. You drove here without a license, right? Like you go down this rabbit hole and have this crazy conversation that goes nowhere. That's when you know you're boned. You screwed up, man. Like, but it just becomes obvious in that moment. So let's talk good body language. You already mentioned the head nods and the head shakes, right? Which go a long way because it's subconsciously implanting the idea of yes or no in the person's head in a positive way, in a good way. And we've mentioned on and off mirroring, right? So mirroring as a concept is simply seeing what a person is doing, where they're at. Let's take slouching, for example. If I have a person roll up, we'll take energy and slouching, right? So their energy is at a 4 out of 10. 10 is like bouncing off the walls like my toddler, right? A slouch is like a 4, right? So they're coming in, they're like, hey, how's it going, right? You can't roll in by like, what's up, how you doing, right? That's an 11 versus a 4. You need to meet them at a 4.5. So what we do is I read the room, right? And this takes practice, you guys. This is not easy. It's not natural. Some people are naturally a little more gifted with this, but it takes practice regardless. So they come in the room. I read the room. I try to get a gauge on their energy level. Where are they coming from? I'm looking at their eyes, their shoulders, just their leg position. Right, you can lean on one leg. So I'm looking for different things like this, little cues. And once I read that, I'll in my head say, and I'm not like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What are they? Right? I'm just going like, this guy's about here, and then I'll meet them there. Right? So I will slouch. If we sit down and
Mm.
they slide down the chair a little bit, guess what? I'm gonna slide down the chair a little bit. But here's where mirroring can be leveled up. The next concept is pace, lead. And I got the terminology of this from Jordan Belfort from his Wolf of Wall Street book, companion book, like the actual sales guide. Not condoning anything he did with his life, by the way, but this concept, fantastic. Pace, lead means that you will mirror first, meet them where they are, and then you are the pace car. So think NASCAR, right? We're going around the laps. We got the pace car in the lead. Everybody trails behind the pace car, right? So you control the speed. Now, what you're going to do in a body language scenario is that after mirroring them, I'm going to slide up the chair a little bit. I'm just going to inch my way up, and we're going to work our way up until we're fully in like good posture position. And
Yeah.
as I'm doing that, I'm also increasing my energy. I'm bringing my voice inflection, my volume goes up over time, my energy, my hand gestures. I'm doing it right now. Like I'm getting more excited as I go.
Love
And
it.
what happens? They do that too.
I just
I
followed
promise.
suit with you. I literally just followed suit with you, and that's exactly how it happens, Jeff. And that's being aware. Coming into a room where, and again, it's context, right? Coming into a room where you may not know everybody, might be a networking event. So you're walking in, and let's face it, you're going to network, then you're there to sell. You may not be looking to like have a transaction. It could be the micro close of booking an appointment or exchanging information or offering something for free to someone. And that's great because if you get them into your funnel, that's important. If you show up with, again, context, if you're going to a Kevin Hart comedy show, you're expecting a level 11. It's like when
I
Robin
agree.
Williams would show up on Johnny Carson. I mean, you
Yeah.
knew he was just completely out of his mind, right? And that was fun. That's not what we're expressing here. So,
Mhm.
good body language is leading with truth and empathy, being curious. So sometimes having that not a angry frown on your face, just being, oh, okay, I'm curious, right? Go in with curiosity. And what's interesting is and I love this pace lead piece that you brought up because exactly that. You come in with a slightly higher energy, you meet them, and cognitively, like being on pace with the fact that now I'm going to take this to this next level.
Yeah.
I've done this with groups before where they didn't realize that I would be standing there, and then I would then put my hands on my hips comfortably or do a one hand, right? And
Yep.
then just like you did with your hat, right? If somebody did one of these, right, across their hair, and then all of a sudden the other person starts to do it, or and
Yep.
the you can literally do these things where it's you do the move first and they start to follow, and it's powerful.
Mhm.
So there's another thing about body language, which is the touch technique. There's a book that's called Service That Sells. It's based on the restaurant industry. It's been proven that when you make physical contact, and obviously we need to be respectful in terms of where we touch someone, when you make physical contact with someone, you increase the odds of closing by 40%. It's incredible. So now that doesn't necessarily mean it's a handshake. It could be, a pat on the shoulder. You could touch someone on the elbow and say, "Hey, you know what? Just for fun, come with me." And that body language move has a profound effect. And for some people, they say to me, "Joe, I can't do that." And it's like, listen, we're just going to practice it just for fun so that you can now have this as a tool in your toolbox. If you choose not to use it, that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
100%. No, that's a great point. And I think that this will also lead into, a future episode where we talk about active listening, right? You brought that up earlier.
Mhm.
I like all these concepts, and these concepts, you guys, if you don't believe us, just go practice them. Like that's the action step for the day. Like go try this, the mirroring, the pace lead, touch technique, whatever, like do it with somebody you're very comfortable with first and then like work your way up. And again, like I'm not gonna place my hand on Mrs. Jones's hand like next to her husband because guess what? I'm not gonna make that sale. We're gonna be
Pow!
in trouble. Like Miss Jones, just for fun, come with me. Yeah, that's not gonna end well. So, we're obviously saying be smart about it, like think about what you're doing. And also I'll say all of these things need to be authentically done, which means you need to practice it. You need to practice, repeat, get comfortable with it, and then it gets authenticated, right? Later on. So that is important to remember. Now, one concept I do want to hammer on with good body language, and we'll kind of end on this note, I think, is the lean. And again, this plays back to like emoting. So you should be Joe is playing to like your emotions. Your eyebrows, by the way, guys, lots of emotions through the eyebrows. Um,
Big time.
but these all play into active listening, which, like I said, maybe that's the next episode we do. Like one of these next couple episodes you guys are going to hear will be about active listening because it's that important. Now, with the lean, if done at the right time, it's extremely effective. So, for example, if I have somebody telling me, we'll go to my fitness industry, I ask them, what were you hoping we could do for you? Or what are your goals? Or like, why is this important to you? And they start talking. If I sit back, I'm away from the conversation. I'm not really involving myself. It doesn't seem like I'm paying attention. If I do this,
Oh my
it's totally,
god, you totally care. You're curious. You
yeah.
wanna know.
And it helps if you have a beard because you can do this, you guys. If you're watching a YouTube one,
You
just
don't
do
need a
beard thing.
beard. Ladies, you don't
You
need
don't
a
need a
beard.
beard. But you just, kind of hand on chin, nodding
Yeah,
your head, leaning in. Like that
big time.
shows I'm interested. This shows I'm disinterested, right? If I lean away from the mic.
Yeah.
So it's something that's extremely valuable. And again, like with active listening, a lot of it is like nodding and like moving your eyebrows like you're interesting or interested, and then leaning in at the appropriate time. Like this goes a long way. Taking notes is a part of active listening. So we'll do a whole episode on that, but that's just one good body language piece I feel like you can't ignore. Like that's something you gotta do. Do the
Get in
lean.
the mirror, guys. We
Yeah.
all have our phones. Whether you want to put your phone up or zoom yourself or whatever, put a video camera up and just practice asking for the sale and look at what your face looks like. Are you nodding? But it takes literally 20 seconds. You don't have to post it. Feel free to
Yeah.
go to our Facebook group and post it, by the way, if you want to do that. If you have that if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, go to our Facebook group, Help More Sell More, join the group because we're going to be putting in video content like that so that you could see it for yourself. We're here to help you guys to help you sell more by helping more.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. So we're going to wrap the episode up here, guys. But here's the deal. We have recently launched the Help More Sell More free Facebook group. That's right. It's a free group. We've privatized it because we don't want bots jumping in there. But we do heavily encourage you to invite any of your friends who are business owners, who are salespeople, who are coaches, any of those individuals that you feel would benefit from, I mean, gosh, relationships like body language plays a lot into
Yeah.
just dating. So if you guys someone who's just dating, but anybody who would benefit from some of these skills, we're gonna start posting some videos in there. We're gonna do lives. We're gonna do giveaways. We've got all sorts of stuff going down. So this is a group. Like if you're gonna join any groups, I know there's millions out there, but I'm asking you, ditch your local garage sale group and your bowling league and join this group so that you can increase your revenues and move closer to personal wealth, because I promise you you're going to
Yeah.
get a ton of value out of this group. So help more sell more, go look it up, request to join. I will approve you. You just got to answer a couple simple questions. And then of course you can always follow us both. I am at Burley Sales, and you are at the Joe Marcoux. So you guys can follow us on Instagram, you follow us on Facebook, and of course, go check out our website. So we have the SOS Dojo. That is Joe's sales program, his main program. If you want to role play, if you want to step into the dojo and do some objection handling, and I do this myself every week with him in a group, and it is an absolute blast. Well worth the time, the finances, everything. Something you guys should check out. And then you can check out Burley Sales. I have a complete online program that runs you through your mindset, setting up your sales process, selling on value, handling objections, and even marketing. Some of the best organic marketing tactics I've seen in my 15 years that are
He's a
extremely
master of discovery. You got to get in there and like that's the key because if you don't want to handle objections, you got to get the discovery right. So this is why we're working together on here because it's this goes hand in hand.
yeah. Yeah, we definitely put our strengths together on this, you guys. So if you want to check that out, we also do mentoring calls at Burley Sales. So go to burleysales.com and you can book a free call. And I believe you do free calls as well as potentially stepping into the dojo and like
Free
hanging out.
sessions for the dojo. You get to come in
Yeah,
and try it out absolutely free. You
the
know,
taste test.
we put our money where our mouth is. It's 100% money back guarantee. So yeah, you have a
Absolutely.
lot of
So
value to give. Join the Facebook group.
that's the
You
place
want
to
to get a
start.
lot of stuff that's going to be powerful for a high income skill. Because here's the thing, and I'll stop with this knowledge monetizes forever. To our
Absolutely.
group.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you guys in the group and interacting with you. Of course, stay subscribed to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for more of those coming your way. And be sure to like and subscribe and all that awesome stuff. So we appreciate you guys. Get out there, get after it, use better body language, and we'll see you on the next episode.